Hey, what's going on, everybody? So, ever since I started keto, I've been trying to do some intermittent fasting in the evenings. Monica and the kids normally have something for dinner, and sometimes I'm successful in holding out, and other times I just succumb to the temptation. So I thought it would be helpful if we could have something on hand that I could have in the evenings when everybody was eating dinner that would be small but satiating and still fit my macro profiles. Now, independently, Monica has hypothyroidism, and she had been researching natural remedies to help her to heal that disease. And the regular consumption of bone broth came up as one of the things that would be really helpful for that. So we decided to give it a try. It would give me something to snack on in the evenings that shouldn't trigger too much of an insulin response, and would give Monica something to try that might help her to heal her condition. So we went out this weekend and we bought an instant pot at Target so that we could make some bone broth. So we're going to show you the recipe that we use. If you don't have an Instant Pot, don't worry. You can make the same recipe in a crock pot or even in just a stock pot. The only difference is going to be how long it takes. So an Instant Pot should be able to get you really good results within 3 hours. A crock pot or a stock pot will probably require something like 24 hours. But without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so the first thing you need to make bone broth is some bones. You can really use any kind of bones. You can do a pork bone broth or a beef bone broth or a chicken bone broth. We decided to go with beef bone broth this time around. Now, as far as the bones you use, that's really up to you, but we like using a combination of marrow bones and bones with just a little bit of meat and connective tissue on them. So this time around, we went with a really good marrow bone. You can see in the center of the bone is that delicious marrow. If you never had marrow before, marrow is buttery and smooth and delicious and rich, and it should help to give the bone broth a really nice and luxurious texture and flavor. Now, in addition to the marrow bones, we also got some oxtail cuts. Oxtail cuts have a bone in the middle, some connective tissue, and then some meat on the outside. Now, we're going to be combining our bones with some aromatics and a little bit of seasoning. Now, you can always skip this part and season your bone broth to taste after it's done cooking, but I think this way it really helps to infuse the mixture with a great flavor profile. So the first step of the process is to boil all of the impurities out of the bones. So we're going to bring a pot of water to a boil and boil our bones for about 30 minutes. So while we've got the beef bones boiling, I'm going to go ahead and start cutting up some aromatics that we can throw in the Instant Pot when it's time to pressure cook. Hey!
Peekaboo.
Are you going to help me with this one too?
Yeah. I feel like I'm getting hypnotized by meat right now.
So we're recording 3 separate cooking videos at the same time, and Lucas is going crazy because he doesn't know which one he wants to eat first. Anyway, the bones have been boiling for about 30 minutes. We've got the impurities out of there. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take them out of the stock pot. We're gonna put them onto a baking sheet, and we're gonna bake them at 400 degrees for about half an hour. That'll get the meat that's left on those bones to be nice and brown. It'll help to render down some of that fat and just add some nice flavor. Okay, now it's time to throw the bones in the Instant Pot. Along with the bones, we're gonna include some celery, some carrots, some leeks, as well as a whole head of garlic, and some salt and pepper for seasoning. I've decided to use whole peppercorns because they're easier to strain from the final mixture. We're gonna set the Instant Pot for 3 hours and then come back and see how our bone broth turned out. All right, so the pressure cooker is set. It's gonna be done in 3 hours, which is gonna be almost 10 o'clock. So I'll see you at bedtime. All right, homies, it is 10:30. I'm in my PJs, but the bone broth is done, so let's go check it out. So I think the bone broth is done because it beeped at me a little bit ago, but I have no idea what this means. I think I'm just gonna try to open it and hopefully it doesn't explode. Oh! Oh my God! Oh my God! I'm not sure if you can see this, but I kind of made a mess. I'm guessing that was not the correct way to do that. Okay, so after that rather explosive attempt, I actually read the instructions that were like right on the lid of the Instant Pot, like looking at me directly in the face. And it turns out I did do the right thing. But I'm guessing by the fact that it exploded in my face that I probably filled it up too high. That's my guess. Right now I'm still waiting because it still seems to be mad at me. Okay, it seems to be done hissing at me. I'm gonna attempt to take off the lid. Oh, it's like I just leveled up in Mario Brothers or something. That looks delicious. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna start by removing some of the bigger chunks, and then I'm going to strain the broth into its own little bowl and go from there. Okay, so I think I've got all the big pieces out of there. So now I'm gonna get a sieve and run the whole thing through the sieve and just catch all of the finer particles that I couldn't catch with my strainer. All right, so it looks like the bone broth is now ready. Here's what it looks like. It's a bunch of oil from like the fats and stuff that's basically floating on the surface. A lot of people cool the bone broth and then remove the fat layer. But since we're on keto, that's not something we're interested in doing. So the trick is I'm actually gonna dispense the bone broth into some mason jars while the oil is still liquid and incorporate it into the overall mixture. That way I can have a nice dose of fat when I go to enjoy my bone broth when I get home from work. It's really flavorful. You can really taste all of the aromatics that we put in there. It has just the right amount of salt. It's really satiating because of like the fat and the broken down collagen from like the bones and the connective tissue. And you can really taste the spice from those whole peppercorns that we threw in there. I'm really looking forward to having this when I come home from work. Very, very satisfying. I'd highly recommend it. All right, now the best part about making bone broth is that you get all of this amazing goodness left over. Get all of this amazing marrow and the oxtail, and it all takes on the flavor of whatever you season the broth with. Now, bone marrow is one of my favorite things. Now, if you've never had marrow before, it's kind of like a cross between like butter and cream. It takes on the flavor of the broth, so it's nice and salty, but still rich. Normally it's served with toast or crackers. Since I'm on keto, I can't have either of those things, but what I can have are cheese crisps. Look how easily it just comes apart. I'll place it on this cheese wisp. Totally delicious byproduct of making bone broth. All right, everyone, that's it. Let me know if you try it. Oh, and definitely don't fill up your Instant Pot as high as I did.